What's happening in Europe? It's 1939 and Hitler is, for lack of a better word, greedy. He's eyeing Poland and wait, let's rewind a little. Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, which is actually the very same year he became an actual citizen, to a country crushed by the Great Depression and humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles. He seemed like a new hope, but hope came with a 4-point plan. Hitler had 4 main aims. First of all, he wanted to abolish the Treaty of Versailles. Second, he wanted to establish a greater Germany. This entailed a return to 1870s Germany, including parts of Austria, Poland, and all of Czechoslovakia. In German, this is generally referred to as Großdeutschland and was part of his foreign policy. The third point was to follow Lebensraum, which directly translates from German to living space, to make Germany larger than ever before. This included the Baltic states, Poland, and the USSR, right up to the Urals mountain range, now featuring land grabs, guaranteed conflict, and absolutely zero moral justification. Yay! Lastly, Hitler wanted to defeat communism. Hitler blamed communism for the German defeat in World War I, and he also knew that Germany had a very strong communist party called KPD, which with a staggering 20% of votes, which obviously meant that it was a threat to him. So, let's speed through the 1930s because it's pretty chaotic. I'm going to cover the basic foreign policy that really influenced Hitler's decision-making and what exactly he did. So, 1933, Hitler pulls Germany out of the League of Nations as well as the Disarmament Conference. Is this wise? Probably not. Does this mean he doesn't have to deal with pesky countries trying to make him, not kill people? Yeah. 1934, he signs a 10-year non-aggression pact with Poland. Suspicious? Yes. Will he break this? Obviously. This is Hitler we're talking about. In 1935, he rearmed Germany and signed the Anglo-German Naval Agreement. Basically, Britain says, sure, rearm, just keep it reasonable. Even though it was literally against the League of Nations, for which Britain was like a very prominent and representative member, the pact meant that the German Navy had to be 35% of Britain's at all time. In 1936, Hitler remilitarized the Rhineland and signed the Rome-Berlin Axis Pact with Mussolini, which was the start of their proper friendship. The next year, in 1937, he joined the Anti-Comintern Pact with Japan, targeting communism. This pact included Mussolini, Japan, and Germany. This later was known as the Tripartite Agreement and then became the Axis Alliance during the war. In 1938, the Anschluss with Austria took place, and then the Sudetenland was taken over. Later on, the full invasion of Czechoslovakia. And finally, in 1939, he signed the Nazi-Soviet Pact, also known as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, promising peace with Stalin and secretly dividing Poland. Sorry, Poland. World War II started on the 1st of September 1939 when Hitler invaded Poland. But to understand the videos we make, you're going to have to understand a couple key terms that'll keep popping up here and there. So let's begin. The Wehrmacht was the German military. It comprised of the Heer, Kriegsmarine, and Luftwaffe. This meant Army, Navy, and Air Force, respectively. The Luftwaffe is the Air Force. Keep this one in mind. It's going to keep popping up a lot, and it's pretty important. Secondly, we have Panzers. Panzers are German tanks, fast, powerful, intimidating. They had 6 variants and were the striking power of armored divisions, with Panzers 4 and 5 being the backbone of Panzer divisions, and 5 and 6, Panther and Tiger, respectively, being heavy tanks. In fact, 4 to 5 US tanks were needed to take down just one Tiger, so you can imagine the strength. And I've put up a picture of one of the Panzers for reference. Blitzkrieg was lightning warfare, a method of offensive, and one of the main reasons it was so successful in the early years. German. It combined the force of tanks, motorized infantry, and artillery, allowing Germans to strike deep into enemy territory. It used the Luftwaffe to establish air superiority and bomb key objectives, and used radio to communicate and coordinate advances. It is one of the first strategies then to allow decentralized command structures. Basically, commanders weren't relying on absent officers and were trusted to make snap decisions. This is really important, and this autonomy given to commanders is still an important part of military doctrines today. So the situation you absolutely need to know in 1939 is just this. Britain, France, and Poland had more troops, resources, and a bigger population than Germany. On paper, they should win. However, Germany had the edge in training, in doctrine, in discipline, and just in sheer military efficiency. And you heard me say doctrine, right? A doctrine is basically just the military's playbook, how they're fighting, how they're training, how they're operating. While what Britain and France took away from World War I was the importance of the defensive, right? So you see that they built this massive fortification called the Maginot Line, which will become really important in our next episode. What Germany took away was seeing the value in the offensive with armies and tanks, and this is why we got Blitzkrieg. So the last thing for you guys to note today are the alliances. The Axis powers were Germany, Japan, and Italy, with a little bit of Romania and Hungary later on. And yeah, the allies were primarily the US, UK, USSR, and then Canada, Poland, France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Austria. All this is on the screen in like the order it said. So USA and USSR joined the allies later on. See you guys next video to answer the first key question of our syllabus: to what extent had Nazi Germany gained control of Europe by 1940? If you have any questions, comment them below. Thanks for watching, and we hope you liked it.